The year is 1859, and a great crisis ripples through the Jewish communities of the world. No, it's not a pogrom, although there was probably one happening somewhere around at that time. It wasn't the rise of Reform Judaism that had already happened 40 years earlier in Germany. Nor is it the rise of political Zionism of Theodor Herzl and the World Zionist and the Zionist Congress that was still 40 years off in the future. The great crisis that befell the Jewish people in 1859 was the invention of the automatic matzah machine. This is a true story. This really happened. In 1859, matzah, which for thousands of years had been carefully and reverently made by human hands, following the precise dictates of Jewish law, could now be made with the touch of a button and the turn of a hand crank. And this new, previously unimaginable way of making this sacred staple of Jewish Passover observance, well, it promised huge savings of time and of money. And so town after town, shtetl after shtetl, they purchased these machines, revolutionizing one of the most basic and sacred and ancient practices of Jewish tradition. Of course, the moment was not without controversy. The arguments for and against the automatic matzah-making machine of 1859, they were many. But all will sound familiar to anyone following the debate currently raging over the good and the evil of artificial intelligence. Hopefully you see where this is going. A geschrei could be heard from shtetl to tenement, like a shofar blast. Some objected just because it was new technology. Oi! I don't need this newfangled thing, they said. Another was economic. Gewalt! People are losing their jobs to the automatic matzah-making machines. Those that can least afford it are losing their jobs to these machines. The poorest among us who have no other skills are being replaced by automatic matzah-making machines. Dr. David Zvi Kalman, who studied this moment of matzah machine mishigas and will be our visiting scholar with our congregation this year, writes that beyond economics and the general rejection of something new, there was concern that the machines just weren't as reliable as people. The rules around matzah making in Jewish law, they're intricate, they're complex, they're sacred. He says, what if bits of dough got trapped in the gears, quietly leavening for hours and ruining whole batches of matzah in the process? What if the trays warmed the dough too fast? Without proper oversight, how could you trust your own food? How could you know it was kosher? And perhaps the most emotional argument was a human one, the loss of agency, of a literal human touch in sifting and sprinkling and kneading and baking the ritual bread. Machine-made matzah was matzah without an neshama. It was matzah without a soul. Now, of course, you know this. Jewish food has a soul. The hands that make it are connected to the heart that holds the hopes, the dreams, the prayers of every generation that came before, and God willing, every generation that will come after. Homemade Jewish food, matzo ball soup, brisket, challah, sorry if you're getting hungry. Those lovingly prepared family recipes, they are lador vador on a dinner plate. And the rabbis and maybe a few bubbies of 1859, they came to the same conclusion. And they declared to the whole Jewish world that matzah made with a machine was no better than a loaf of bread on Pesach. They really said that. But the Jewish world was not of one mind, have we ever been? That very same year, another group of rabbis, and perhaps a few tired and arthritic bubbies, argued that machine-made matzah was perfectly fine. And possibly it was even better than the human product. The person who invented the matzah-making machine, well, they reasoned they had a soul, and that, they said, was good enough. Stop fetching and pass the charoset could be heard. To matzah machine or not to matzah machine? In 1859, that was the question, but we already know the answer. Because despite all the arguments about the personal touch and the physical connection and the holy and the soul and the neshama and the sacred food, no one makes matzah by hand anymore. And we haven't for almost 150 years. We buy it in a store. It comes in a box. It says Streitz or Manischewitz. And sometimes, if we are truly blessed, we get it on sale. What a machaya that is. Matzah machines rule the world. Why is this problem different from every other problem? It isn't. We are at that same inflection point when it comes to artificial intelligence as our bubbies were in 1859, only the stakes are so much higher than tasteless, crumbling matzah. To be clear, a lot of good can come from machine learning, from artificial intelligence. AI can automate repetitive tasks in the workplace. Doctors are reviewing patients' health records and devising medical regimens more quickly because of AI. Farmers are dabbling with programs that read soil samples and predict the very best way to cultivate crops. More people are eating because of AI. But on the flip side, too much automation can leave plenty of humans out of work. Generated photos and videos can spread lies and can stoke division. We've seen that. And teachers are worried academic cheating will replace real learning. And oh, there's that pesky little question that it might bring about the end of the world as we know it. There is a moment in the Oppenheimer movie, this is not a spoiler, there's a moment in the Oppenheimer movie, a debate, when the physicists realize that what was once theoretical is now probable. And so they ask, should we? Should we proceed to invent the atom bomb and then later the hydrogen bomb? Now, many brilliant minds argue against inventing them, because while splitting the atom could be a source of boundless energy, it will undoubtedly be used as a weapon of mass destruction. Of course, others argue that its force will be so destructive that it could end World War II, not only ending it and saving them the invasion of Japan, but it will be so devastating that it will perhaps end all wars forever. A hammer can build a house or can bludgeon a human head. We don't outlaw hammers, not in Judaism. We set rules. We articulate values on how it should be used and not be used. The answer from the film and from history is that we cannot uninvent things. Hammers will always lead to better hammers. Bombs, sadly, tragically, will always lead to bigger bombs. And so therefore, we have to set ethical rules so that we use technologies, new technologies, in ways that further human flourishing, not destroy it. Inventions aren't inherently bad. Neither is artificial intelligence. Judaism is not opposed to new inventions or new technologies. Judaism worries about how they will be used, and we should too. The question Judaism asks when new technologies, be they matzah-making machines or hammers or AIs, are invented, are what will be lost and what will be gained. Ma nishtana. We must ask the same questions. Artificial intelligence will reshape the way that we think. It will fundamentally, perhaps irrevocably, change the very nature of human existence and activity, and it will do so at a speed faster than we ourselves will be able to even think about it. Rabbi Danny Schiff, in his book Judaism in a Digital Age, writes, "The world around us is changing at breakneck speed." You know that. You're seeing it and feeling it. Have you tried to update your iPhone lately? We are hurtling towards the future at a velocity sufficient to ensure that the challenges of tomorrow will arrive before we have adequately addressed yesterday's problems, yesterday's issues. This moment, like the matzah machine crisis of 1859, it raises so many questions. Ma nishtana. If, as recently reported, AI radiology is 20% more accurate than human radiologists, we could actually be diagnosed without ever seeing a human doctor. Is that bad or is that good? What is lost? What is gained? Ma nishtana. If driverless cars, trucks, and planes can remove driver error, reducing the number of fatalities on the road and in the air, Should we do away with human drivers altogether and with them their jobs? Ma nishtana. If artificial intelligence trained on a lifetime of watching and listening to your data from your Facebook likes and your Netflix choices, if it knows you better than your therapist, better than your rabbi, better than your spouse, whose advice are you going to follow? Ma nishtana. If AI can give parking and speeding tickets, if it can adjudicate simple legal disputes, if it can even determine if you qualify for a loan or get into a university, let alone call balls and strikes fair or foul, goal or no goal, should we hand those generally objective tasks over to a computer? And consider this. If AI-guided technology could prolong life indefinitely so that we never die, should we allow it to do so? And what is the meaning of life if it has no end? These are big questions with huge generational, life-altering implications that I am not going to answer. But who will answer them? Who will decide how AI will be used and, as importantly, how it will not be used? The late Rabbi Jonathan Sacks of blessed memory astutely observed that never before have humans been faced with more choices, but never before have the great society-shaping institutions offered less guidance on why we should choose this way rather than that. Listen to me here, please. If Judaism and Torah cannot speak with wisdom and moral clarity to this moment, then why listen to them anymore? The core mission of the Jewish people has always been to critically appraise societal directions and through the wisdom of our tradition to be an or lagoyim, a light unto the nations that guides us along the precarious path of human existence. Rabbi Schiff explains, if Judaism is to have relevance going forward, it will need to emphasize the historic Jewish task of evaluating contemporary civilization critically and offering a Jewish vision for how to live Jewishly alongside it. To at once be a part of and a part from this rapidly changing world. Former Israeli Prime Minister and President Shimon Peres, Zichron Livracha, once observed that the greatest contribution of the Jewish people to the world is dissatisfaction. We are eternally dissatisfied, never happy with the way the world is, but we care about how it should be. When the world saw human beings as slaves and chattel to be exploited day and night, Judaism responded with the Sabbath and six-day work week. A day of rest did not exist until Judaism commanded it and our rabbis insisted upon it. We gave that to the world. When humanity found pleasure and nourishment in animal products, Judaism responded with the laws of kashrut, setting limits and bounds for what is proper to eat and how to eat it. Because not everything that we can do, should we do. And that's a core belief in Judaism. When God commanded, Vishinantam levanecha, and you shall teach your children, the rabbis of the Talmud more than 2,000 years ago set up public schools and required that every parent enroll their children by age 6, 2,000 years ago. They added that students should not be beaten with a stick or a cane, that older students should help younger ones, and that children should not be kept from their lessons by other duties, like working on the field or in sweatshops. All of these are contrarian and radical ideas. Judaism said then, as we must say now, wait. Consider the implication of these practices. Is there a better way? Should we do this? What is lost? What is gained? And perhaps the best example of the contrarian or prophetic voice of Judaism through the ages comes from the Torah portion that we read just this morning. The Akedah, the near-human sacrifice of Abraham's son Isaac. Had Abraham consulted an AI as he stood upon the top of Mount Moriah, his son bound in wood to wood, a knife raised in his hand, the AI of the day, which like the AI of today, would have contained all of the available knowledge on the subject at the time, because that's what AI is. It's the whole internet. Had Abraham said, "Hey Siri," instead of "Hineni." That pre-Torah AI would have answered, "Sacrifice your son." Why? Because that's what everyone else was doing back then. That was the prevailing way of practice amongst the pagans and the idol worshippers that Abraham lived amongst. AI is a large language model. It only knows what it already knows, what is already known. But Abraham said no. It was Abraham's humanity. It was his human intelligence that held back the knife. He was contrarian, and thank God for it. He didn't follow the program or the algorithm. His humanity was a feature, not a bug in the system. And do you remember what Abraham was called when he was first introduced in the Torah? He is known in our tradition as Ha-Ivri, which comes from the word Aver, which means side. The Midrash asks, why was he called Ha-Ivri? Because all of the world was on one side, and he was willing to take his stand on the other side, where we often stand as a people. That was the test. That was what God was counting on. God was counting on Abraham, the nonconformist, and so God gave Abraham and us, his descendants, a Torah and not an algorithm. Our humanity is a feature, it's not a bug. Like with Matzah machines, when you remove humans from the equation, you may lose way too much. Will our response to artificial intelligence emerge from sacred texts, from the power of reason and the Jewish ethical tradition? Or will they simply be fashioned, as so many things are, around the practical realities of what is possible, what is profitable, what is popular, and what is currently not illegal? Will the most important decisions of life and society be decided by mortal human beings or immortal algorithms? The Jewish response and responsibility, and here I want to say particularly of Reform Judaism, is to think about these things as they happen, and when possible, to think about them before they happen, so that we can live alongside new technologies while not being absorbed by them and losing our humanity in the process. From its revolutionary perspective, Reform Judaism has recognized that we live in an ever-changing world amongst an ever-growing and diverse peoples and cultures. New technologies will always come. That we can be sure of. The response of Reform Judaism, our response, is to challenge us to find the right balance between tradition and modernity. To look to our tradition of wisdom, of scholarship, of reason and debate, and to find the right way to live morally, to live ethically and responsibly as a Jew and as a human being in this world, not in the past, in this world right now, with all of its challenges, distractions, enticements to the contrary. Now, Judaism is often slow. It's often slow on purpose. And the result has been that Judaism often responds too slowly and that we are then behind the curve. We need to think of developing ethical ideas at the same pace as those that are inventing AI and the next matzah-making machines. Who gets to decide these matters? Those who react at the right speed, who think ahead. And so I invite you to join me throughout the year as we study and grapple with these questions here at Temple Sholom in what I am audaciously calling the Temple Sholom Human Intelligence Project. Sign up for a session with Dr. Kalman. He's an expert in this field and also a Hartman Scholar, who I quoted earlier. Host a self-led conversation in your living room. We'll give you the materials. You'll have the discussion. Read a suggested book and join with the author in a Zoom session. And if you're a member who is working in the field impacted by AI or a scholar who is studying its development, please reach out to me so that we can explore how to further our learning as a congregation and navigate these issues. Friends, Judaism needs to break type. It's okay to look behind to gain perspective. We have been doing that a lot today. But the moment, the speed of technological and scientific advancement, it now requires that we look ahead. And perhaps none other than the great one himself, and no, I'm not talking about Adonai, but the other great one, Wayne Gretzky, said it most succinctly. Skate to where the puck is going, not to where it has been. This is the way the world is going. AI is the way that the world is going, like it or not. And if Jewish values and the Jewish people don't get out ahead of it, we will be run over by an AI version of a matzah making machine, which of course is a driverless Zamboni. Shana Tova.